Good evening, everyone. Am I audible, sir? Dr. Venu, Dr. Vasisth Garu, Dr.
Very much, sir. Very much, sir. Please go ahead, sir.
Okay. Good evening, everybody. The General Secretary of the Association, Dr. Venugopal Gauri, the Treasurer and the Medical Director of the Association, Dr. K. Gopalakrishna Garu, our senior member and honorary advisor, Dr. K. Vasisth Garu, the office bearers, the vice presidents, the joint secretaries, organizing secretary, the executive members, and all the members of the association. On behalf of the Homoeopathic Association of Homoeopathic Medical Association of Telangana, at the outset, I welcome our speaker, Gayathri Prasad Garu, the Associate Professor of MNR Homeopathic Medical College, Sangareddy, Rangareddy district. Sir, I heartily welcome you, sir, for the T. Sheshaiah Memorial Oration. You are welcome, sir, on behalf of the association. I welcome all the office bearers, all the executive members, all the members of the association, and also I welcome the invitees, guests, everybody. So for the oration lecture, which is being arranged on the memory of T. Sheshaiah, our guest speaker is Dr. Gayathri Prasad, who is going to speak on the topic. So, Posology at the prescriber's desk. I welcome everybody, and I request Dr. Vasisth, S.K. Vasisth Garu, to introduce Dr. Sheshaiah Memorial Oration. I request Dr. Vasisth Garu to speak a few words regarding Sheshaiah Memorial. Sir.
Good evening, friends. It's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Sheshaiah. In fact, I'm one of the fortunate who had met him personally. I met him at his residence at Bashir Bagh when he was not keeping well, along with Dr. Krishna Rao. I had been, and I knew him when he used to come to Bularam, especially to this military college, where he used to run a clinic. And probably every week he used to come. And he, along with then Dr. Gurdiyal Singh, they were the only homeopaths in 1970s in our city, which, as it is, it was known. Friends, Dr. Sheshaiah was born in 1907. He was a student of Chatarghat High School and a graduate from Nizam College, and had a lawyer degree from Madras University. He has joined the Nizam government after his law, but he was not that much happy with the work. But the greatness of Dr. Sheshaiah was that he was very sincere, a very straightforward man, and after independence, probably the people who were around him found him fit to be an IS officer. So he joined the Indian government as an IS officer, and he was there up to 1963. He was a Deputy Finance Secretary, the government of Andhra Pradesh. And what made him and homeopath is something which we may not be able to imagine.
మీటింగ్ లో ఉన్నారని చెప్పు.
He had
మీటింగ్ లో ఉన్నారని చెప్పు అంటున్నా. ఏం విషయం ఏమంటే మాట్లాడు.
After an snake bite, he was treated at JJ Hospital, Bombay, the famous hospital in Bombay. He was there as an inpatient for 6 months, and still he was not well. And when he came back to Hyderabad, a friend of Dr. Sheshaiah, Dr. Venkatesh Iyer, he introduced him to homeopathy. He gave him some books of homeopathy by Dr. Hahnemann. That ailment led him to read the books and he self-medicated himself with the homeopathic medicine, and he was totally cured. That experience, what he had during that particular period, made him so much confident. He just felt that, yes, this is the only system which should be for our country. And he totally devoted his further life in study of homeopathy, and he had a very good library. Probably, if I'm not right, a part of that library is still with our association. It was there with Dr. Jayasuriya Smarak Sangam. We had a big library, and I hope that was say a thing which was given by Dr. Sheshaiah. Friends, Dr. Sheshaiah's this dedication and devotion to homeopathy, he came closer to Dr. N.M. Jayasuriya, Dr. Brahmanand, and they started this Modi charitable dispensary at Hyderabad. That is, at that time, Mrs. Modi had some ailment for which Dr. Sheshaiah treated, and she had come forward and helped us to start this particular dispensary at Hyderabad. Now, friends, Dr. Sheshaiah is one of the founders of our association. The present building at HMAT Nagar is his contribution. And his devotion to the system was into such a level that probably, if I'm not wrong, even starting of Jayasuriya Homeopathic College, he was one of the members who was there in that. So friends, I feel fortunate that I had met him, and I had spent some time. He was a very good practitioner, and where in Modi, I had met him many a times. And in the last also few days before his death in 1976, if I'm not wrong, I've been to his residence at Bashirbagh along with Dr. Krishna Rao. And friends, and the subject today, what we have chosen, the Posology, probably this is one of the toughest subjects we have. And I feel that it is one which needs to be addressed. And I wish the speaker all the best, Dr. Gayathri. And friends, it's a good tribute to Dr. Sheshaiah by having this memorial lecture. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Vashishji, for an elaborate introduction about Dr. Sheshaiah. Just as we are proud, the way every citizen of India is proud that the way we have fought for independence and got our freedom from the British. And the history of homeopathy also, as homeopaths, we feel proud how the way this great gentleman, like Dr. Sheshaiah, who was rubbing shoulders with the great people like Dr. N.M. Jayasuriya, who actually started this association and fought their way through to see that homeopathy achieves great heights in this part of the country. And we pay our great tributes to this gentleman in this hour. Dr. Sampath Rao ji is slightly busy. Sorry for intervening, and I would request now to I would request Dr. Sai Shruti to introduce our speaker of the evening, Dr. Gayathri Prasad.
Good evening and warm welcome to everyone who have attended Dr. T. Sheshachari Memorial Oration. I am Dr. R. Sai Shruti, pursuing MD in JSPS Homeopathic Medical College, and I hope everyone are doing good during this COVID time. I am feeling privileged to introduce one of our faculty members of UG, Dr. G. Gayathri Prasad sir, who is our speaker today. Now let us have a small and brief introduction about our speaker. Dr. Gayathri Prasad sir has completed his MD Homeo in subject Organon and Philosophy and diploma in acupressure and acupuncture. He has done his undergraduation in Gondia Homeopathic Medical College, Maharashtra in 2006, for which he was awarded the best outgoing student in same year. He has done diploma in acupressure and acupuncture in 2006 and MD from JSPS Government Homeopathic Medical College, Ramantapur, Hyderabad in 2010 from the subject Organon of Medicine and Homeopathic Philosophy. He has been practicing homeopathy since the last 15 years in Telangana region. He even joined teaching profession as assistant professor since August 2012 to May 2016 in Dev's Homeopathic Medical College, Hyderabad, when Dr. G.R. Mohan sir was principal to the college. Later, he joined MNR Homeopathic Medical College, Sangareddy in June 2016. Currently, he is working as associate professor in Department of Organon of Medicine and research associate for MNR Homeopathic Research Department. He is even examiner and paper evaluator for the subject Organon of Medicine for NTR and KNR University of Health Sciences. He is even working for research project on comparison of arsenical potency with other drugs in potency for diabetes mellitus type 2. He has published many articles in many indexed and non-indexed journals of homeopathy. He is also member of Homeopathic Medical Association of Telangana since last 15 years and General Secretary for Homeopathic Medical Association of India for Sangareddy unit of Telangana state. Now let us listen to the wonderful oration on posology at prescriber's desk by our speaker and our lecturer.
Thank you, Dr. Sai Shruti. Now I request Dr. Gayathri Prasad ji, our resource person for the evening, to take over the stage. And meanwhile, we recognize the presence of our honorary advisor, Dr. Shivshankar Kunapareddy ji, a part of this evening gathering. I'm sure, Dr. Gayathri, you will make a mark on this presentation. Please take over. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. So I request all the audience to please switch off their videos because it's still on, and because of which I will doubt whether you can clearly see me or hear me. Venugopal sir, am I audible?
Very much, Dr. Gayathri Prasad. Please go
Okay,
ahead.
sir. Am I visible? Sorry to say.
Yes, both audible and visible. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Thank you for inviting for this oration. And I'm very glad to hear about Sheshaiah sir. Well experienced man, because hardly we hear such names. And it was very kind of me being a part of such oration. And I thank Dr. Shivshankar sir, please, for attending this oration and encouraging youngsters like me. And I thank Dr. Sampad Rao sir, the president of this association, Gopal Krishna sir, K. Gopal Krishna sir, and all the office bearers and others who have made this session possible. And it's a wonderful year in the sense, like last year we had a lot of webinars moving out throughout the country. Because of COVID, it was not a offline, rather it was an online webinars. And I was very fortunate to see many webinars coming out from many associations, etc. Now, even from many colleges, they too had their webinars, and I'm very proud to say that even MNR Homeopathic College, our principal sir, Dr. Manila sir, made it possible again to have webinars in the year 2020 because of COVID issues. When we were going with that webinars, frankly speaking, I was very encouraging because all the speakers from different resources, they spoke on different subjects. To be frank with you, it's very impossible for us to attend all the offline lectures, to go such places and visit them. But when it comes to a webinar, it was possible because no matter you organize a webinar in Delhi or you organize a webinar in Kerala, you organize a webinar in Calcutta, or else you organize a webinar in Calicut, anywhere, the participants from all over the globe for that matter, they can attend. It was very, very interesting. And as a student, I was also attending a lot of webinars. To be frank with you, I still believe I'm a student of homeopathy. And today, this webinar, which was organized, I am taking a topic which is age old, but still some things are still pending because we see a lot of youngsters today who want to practice homeopathy, but sometimes what they miss is the posology aspect, which I think the youngsters are definitely learning something from today. And I'm very glad that this lecture has been attended by some of my teachers. I'm seeing them on screen. One of my teachers, Dr. V.N. Rao sir, who has given much inputs for this subject to me. And many of my colleagues are there. I'm seeing them. Many of my students are there from Dev's College and MNR College. I'm able to see them. So not delaying much time, having some information, I will try to share, and please you can interrupt or you can ask the questions at the end, okay? Now let us take this title, Posology at Prescriber's Desk, and how this I will take up. Now the objectives of this study, when you read this webinar altogether, you will have an idea about what are the basic or various types of prescription, something related to basic idea of pathology, and how Hahnemann, the founder of homeopathy, had his idea on posology in the initial years of his homeopathic career and towards the later stages of his life. Then we will have an idea about the Boning Hussein and other stalwarts talking on the subject. And finally, I will be giving some practical tips which are given by the masters, how to use a potency in what skills we can use. So let us have some idea regarding this concept of prescription and prescription types, because posology is not possible because without knowing the prescription. Now, whenever we see a doctor prescribing a remedy, he says that I am using some of them prescriptions, and he says that I'm using some types. So normally speaking, what are the types a prescriber will say? Now he will say that I'm using an acute prescription, by which he mean to say that he's using some therapeutics for the topic, and the therapeutic tool he has taken for prescribing that remedy. So naturally, when you say therapeutics, you can use any good book which is having therapeutics for that given condition, and usually such prescriptions are acute. Then we have another category called etiological prescription. And here I mean to say the prescriber will say that this is my criteria for selecting the remedy. The cause is the criteria. Now the causes, what he will say, is usually mechanical, exciting, or maintaining causes. Now in repertory, if you see, there's a section like ailment. Ailment is given for almost every rubrics, major rubrics. If you see, for ailments will tell you what is the cause, and based upon the cause they will prescribe the remedy. Now there is another prescription we say like keynote prescription, which is more highlighted in Allen's keynotes and Gunse, where they say that I'm giving the prescription on striking symptoms. Now this striking symptoms concept, what we hear from H.C. Allen, Gunse, the font what they use, like any Medica book, if you see, there's a difference in font. Sometimes the bold font or the italic font, it specifies for striking symptom, and that was the criteria for which they were giving the remedy. Now the fourth and most interesting terminology what we use usually is, I am basing my prescription on constitutional prescription, which we say it as a classical prescription. Now for this classical prescription, the criteria will be something like patient's physicals, generals, patient mental generals, and emotional aspects you are taking into the criteria. And naturally you say that this is my classical prescription, where I have taken the patient's constitution, which you mean to say generals of the person. Then we have another word like intercurrent prescription, intercurrent remedy or intermediate remedy. Now here for normally we say like I'm using a no source complementary remedy. Sometimes I use some constitutional remedies, and this I say that I'm using it an intercurrent remedy, which you mean to say like it's an acute disease, but the medicine has not acted well, and now you wanted to give this intercurrent remedy so that acute remedy will act better. Now, sometimes this intercurrent word is used for two instances. It can be an acute intercurrent or it can be a chronic intercurrent. And acute is usually given in a chronic case, and chronics are usually given in an acute case. For example, like the patient is running with a chronic complaint and suddenly he got an acute ailment, you can give an acute intercurrent. But if patient is running with an acute and you wanted to complement it, naturally you have to go for a chronic intercurrent. Now that's how the words are interchangeable, but the purpose is only to have a facilitation in the prescription. Now another word which is more for demand for a teacher like Ornon is miasmatic prescription, where you mean to say that the tendencies or predispositions you are taking into criteria, and accordingly you are selecting the miasm. And that miasm, that miasmatic remedy you wanted to give for this individual. Now this individual may be having one or two or three miasms, at times a compound miasm. As we know that only one will be dominant and others are dormant, that you need to decide and select your remedy. Now another prescription what we normally hear is nosological prescription. It is usually given with only common symptoms taking into criteria. It's not anything beyond that. Normally what we hear, headache, this is my remedy, cold, this is my remedy, without much going into the characteristic phenomena what we normally hear. And next comes organopathic prescription, which is specially for some organs, special affinity for some organs. When I mean to say this, when we read our Mater Medica, they say that the drug is having affinity for this organ, like chelidonium for liver, cardus for liver, schionanthus for spleen. Now this is how the author has written this, that you have taken as a criteria for prescription. Now another set of prescriptions normally we are saying is pathological prescription, that I have taken the pathology into criteria. Now pathology means like you have understood what is the disease phenomena in that individual, and you try to match this disease phenomena with a drug phenomena, and that is what you mean to say that you are taking a pathological prescription. Now it's very important us to know that not merely the symptom, but pathology is equally important, and to understand pathology you need to study all the modern subjects. It's like an Ornon teacher saying that you have to read all the subjects are equally important, right? Now some other prescriptions what we hear is usually synthetic prescription, which you mean to say that I am taking a synthesis of two major remedies. For example, calcarea is a well-established constitutional remedy, and phosphorus is another well-established constitutional remedy. But if I want to make a synthetic prescription, what I will do, I can take calcarea phos, which is again a compound of calcarea and phosphorus, and this I will say that it's my constitutional, that is synthetic prescription. But here there is a flaw that you have to understand, that this constitutional remedy like calcarea is having its own constitution, which many a times we tend to forget. And we normally say calcarea, some symptoms are there, phosphorus are there, I will make it as one calcarea phos. Okay. Now there is another prescription called tautopathic, where the medicines are being prepared from some drugs and chemicals that administered to our patients as prescriptions like cortisone, steroids, etc. The last comes the palliative prescription, which is normally we give for terminal illness in late stages of a disease. Now, this is equally an important term. You have to know what dose you have. So, this I was trying to just give an idea regarding the types of prescription. Now, let me go to my topic proper. What is this posology and posology for prescriber's risk? Now, when we take this concept of posology, before going to the philosophical part, the concept of Hahnemann and others, let us have a basic idea of what is posology. Now, posology, we mean to say that there are 3 points important, that is 3 essential elements are important. So one is the principle upon which you are prescribing the remedy, and second, how similar the remedy is, and third comes the concept of dose. Now here these 3 words are equally important. Sometimes in our literature, at times this word dose is at times getting confused for many students. So this dose is a slightly tricky word, which many times the student get confused with dilutions. Let us have some common understanding. Dilutions, the others are mean to say potency. Dose, they mean to say the quantity. So let us have this common understanding called potencies are for dilutions and dose is for quantity of the medicine. Now, under what principles you are giving the remedy is equally important. Is it based upon the law of palliation or the law of cure? Because everywhere it makes a difference for potency selection. Now, let us see the concept of posology and let you inquire from Hahnemann point of view. Now, homeopathic doctrine of dosage, when we say like law of cure, that dose actually, when we read this concept of dose, especially the large doses and small doses, they say that there's a difference exactly opposite in action. Like when we read a law called An-Shun law, there he says small doses excite, medium doses paralyze, and large doses kill. So this concept you should be very, very clear. Like what is the small dose action? What is the large dose action? And as a homeopath, you need to excite or stimulate the part, but not to paralyze or kill. Now, this is one law which we have taken from Newton's third law, which he mean to say like action and reaction are equal and opposite, which I mean to say like small doses and large doses are opposite in their action. Now, what has actually happened is, for that matter, if you remember, Hahnemann, when we say the father of homeopathy, the law of similima, and Hippocrates was much age ahead of Hahnemann. Now, what made Hippocrates followers not to continue the law of similia? This is one interesting area which we have to know, which our youngsters should know, because it's not merely the father of homeopathy said similia first, because it's father of medicine said similia first. Now, this word actually what I was trying to say is therapeutic dose must be capable of only producing a slight intense or slight aggravation for an already existing symptom without producing any new symptom. And this is possible only with the smallest possible dose. So actually what has happened in the old school of thought or old school of medicine, the physicians who were trying for homeopathy on the basis of law of similia, they were actually giving crude doses, as you should know as fatal doses. So these crude doses or fatal doses were killing the persons, killing the patients. Naturally, nobody dared to practice homeopathy because they were very afraid of the similia, because it was actually given in a large dose, were killing the patients. So nobody dared to continue with the law of similia. And actually, as you know, like Hahnemann has tried similia, he too had its own struggles. Now, what was the struggle actually Hahnemann had, if you see for? Because Hahnemann's prescription before the minute doses, he too, like an old school physician, was giving medicines in large doses. I say it's merely large dose, right? So what is this large dose? It's something like 1/4, 1/3, 1/2, or 1 grain of medicine. It's not that small dose. What we normally hear as small, it's not that small. It's even Hahnemann, after the discovery of homeopathy, he too has its own struggle, right? So he was giving 1/4, 1/3, 1/2, and 1 grain, which are, to be frank with you, it's a very large dose. Now, he was giving on the concept of single medicine. This is equally important to you, like law of similia, simplex, and minimum. That concept was very clear. He was giving only one medicine at a time. And he usually started with specifics, that is specific for that clinical condition, which was already established by that time. Like sulfur was an established remedy for skin. Mercury was an established remedy for syphilitic affection. It was already established before. So he was trying with such remedies first, usually singly, but not to begin with small doses. He was actually trying with large doses. If you see for Hahnemann's posology, how he was practicing and what kind of potencies he was using altogether, in 1799, the first indication came for something called infinitesimal posology. As we remember, our fifth edition says dynamization was introduced in fifth edition. But to be frank with you, even remotely, Hahnemann has used such terms much before to the publication of fifth edition of our manual. So he was doing this in 1799, and if you see the history for such, actually he has published a paper on 1801 where he was giving the reference of since infinitesimal posology. And the concept of how the massive came to minute, if you see some of the causes is one of the strong reasons which we have to accept was his hostility for apothecaries. As you know, like Hahnemann was practicing and he was dispensing his own medicines. The pharmacists on that day, they didn't appreciate that, because what they felt is the doctor should prescribe it and the pharmacist should dispense it. So what Hahnemann was doing is he was practicing and dispensing the medicine. That was one of the strong reason, and there was a hatred for Hahnemann from pharmacy community. And to avoid such hatrality or hostility, what he has done was trying to reduce the dose. Was not giving the medicine anywhere. Like you can't identify where is the medicine. The medicine is so minute, you can't identify. That was one of the very strong reasons. And second reason is reduction to such an extent that medicine should not be found. And I was a firm believer of dynamic concept of philosophy, which we have to appreciate for, because our system works on this concept of dynamic and dynamization. Everything comes from this concept of dynamic, and that made him to reduce the dose from massive to minute. And as I said, large doses were killing even when you follow the similia. So small doses was the only answer for such. If you see the Hahnemann's posology, as I was saying, from 1790 to 1798, he was giving material doses. The principle was similar, but the quantity, if you see for, they were given in material doses, and they too had its own aggravations. Then Hahnemann started reducing the quantity, that is the dose. So he was giving it in 1x, 2x, and 2c, etc. So where he was practicing centesimal and some decimal scale potencies. And according to Peter Morrell's research, if you see for 1799, he was using 5x and 6x. In 1803, 12c was come into the picture. 1805, 18c appeared. 1816, 30c appeared. And if you see by 5th edition, he was practicing some with 60 potency, 60, 60, 200, and maximum 1000. Okay. So this first time it appeared in Mater Medica Pura, that high dilutions, what we say like 60, 200 and above. Now, interesting area what we firmly believe is Hahnemann was afraid of the aggravations, which made him to discover a new scale of potency called 50 millisimal potency. For this 50 millisimal potency, as you know, he was starting this and practicing when he was in Paris. That is almost when he was almost 85 and above. And this actually, because of he was giving in nervous disorders centesimal scale. Before the discovery of 50 millisimal, he was giving the medicines for nervous disorders in centesimal scale, and they had their own aggravations. That made Hahnemann to thought for a new scale of potency, even more with low aggravations. That made him to discover for something called 50 millisiemen, and the instance was when he was facing a problem with nervous disorder patients. And as you know, like it was introduced in sixth edition of Organon, and it was introduced in the aphorism 246, which Hahnemann has named it as new dynamization, new and perfected method of dynamization, which later Pierre Schmidt has made it as 50 millisiemen, and another gentleman named Rawson has made it with a new name. In eastern part of the world, if you go for, they say this as new medicine, that is new method of dilution, whereas Western countries, they say it as LM method. So here, if you see for Hahnemann had a clear-cut idea with different scales of potency, with different scales in the sense, like he knew what is called centesimal scale, which he named it as medicamentus lagoti, and which you normally take with the suffix called C or CH. Now, like 30 is the potency, I will say like this as 30C or 30CH. And decimal scale was introduced by Herrin, but Hahnemann was well aware of this, and which normally we take the suffix called X. And the third, that is 50 millisiemen potency, which Hahnemann named it as medicamentum a globale, which normally it is denoted as 0 by 1, and it ranges from 0 by 1 to 30. So Hahnemann was very clear with the concept of posology, and he knew the different scales. And as you know, Hahnemann was experimenting with different scales till his lifetime, because he was never satisfied with centesimal, and he went to something with low aggravations in his sixth edition, that is 50 millisiemen potency. Now, after Hahnemann, if you see the contemporaries, one of the very contemporary and student of Hahnemann is Dr. Boning Hussain, and one of his references for regarding Hahnemann's scale of potency is what Hahnemann tried for. Now, Boning Hussain says Hahnemann, in his discussions with Boning Hussain, he tried for 60C potency, 60C. And later, when Boning Hussain was practicing, and even he was practicing and publishing a lot of books, one of the books of Boning Hussain by the title Lesser Writings, it speaks for what is the concept of Boning Hussain and what kind of potencies he was trying up with. Now, Boning Hussain was practicing with high potencies. This we have to know. Boning Hussain was usually practicing with high potency. He was not a low potency prescriber. What are the reasons? Now, what he felt was most striking symptoms will come in high potency, not with the low. And in the raw state, usually the symptoms are very low. You have to excite it, then only to become strong. So that was the reason, one of the very first reason. And 30 will have more number of symptoms compared to 2 or 3. Like what I was trying to say with first sentence, sorry, like calcarea, silesia, natrum, they are purely inert in their crude state. And when you go with low potencies, you will get mostly the skin peripheral symptoms. When you go with high potency, you will get the high symptom, that is of high grade. Now, second reason I was saying, like 30 is more having weightage over than 2 and 3, because the number of symptoms were relatively more. In chronic cases, high potency is what he felt had a very good role. In acute disease also, he felt high potencies are a very good role. So both in acute and chronic, he was with the idea of high potencies. And as one of the sentence what we read is continuous dynamization. When you continuously dynamize it, the medicines are coming beyond to the law of chemistry. It's not in the law of chemistry, it's beyond to the law. For example, when you keep phosphorus, which is a fluorescent subject, but when you potentize it and when you keep it in a paper, you keep it for nearly 12 years, more than 12, still the paper will not burn, that is one. Second, the medicine will act even if you keep it prolonged for number of years. So which I mean to say, like continuous dynamization, the medicines are going beyond to the law of chemistry. Now, many a times the diet what we advise to the patients is not sometimes accepted by the patient. He will have some other defective diets. So what Boning Hussain used to say is high potency will overcome such deficit diets. And fifth, the specific dynamic property is active in high but not for low. And the concept of cure, what we hear usually, it comes only for high, but concept of palliation only goes for low potencies. This is one of the strong reasons why he used to advise for high potency. Now, after Boning Hussein, let us have one more gentleman, that is Constantine Harry. He had the concept with order of appearance of symptom and what potency you have to go for. So when you see the primary symptoms, the original symptoms, he was then going for low potencies. When it is for the secondary symptoms, that is order secondary symptoms in the order, then he used to go for high potencies. So this concept comes in the order of proving of generation of symptoms. That's how he was deciding the potencies there. Now, after Herring, as I remember, it's always Kent. Normally, we think for, and Kent we say as a high potency prescriber. But what I mean to say here is, it was not Kent the first person to prescribe for high potencies. Even much before to Kent, they had people with different scales. Like when you read the potencies, they say Jenischin potencies and Korsakoff potencies. They are different scales. Like their preparations are slightly different, but they had their own preparations and they had high potencies much before to Kent comes into the picture. As if you remember, Kent was born in 1849. Much before to Kent, high potencies were being prepared and practiced in homeopathy, that is in 1834 and 1844. Now, after Constantine Herring, it is always Kent who comes to our mind. Kent always with the concept of series of potencies, that is 30, as you know, it starts from 30, 200, 1M, 10M, 50M, CM, DM, and MM. And he says like it has to be given in an order, and it's all beautiful what we hear from Kent. We will try to listen what others were saying about Kent philosophers. Now, after this, we had a basic idea with the basic philosophers. Let me go to the concept of potency selection from here onwards, and I will be discussing what is the potency to be selected and how and what were the opinions of different stalwarts on this concept. Now, the concept of potency, that is dose selection, usually goes with the concept of susceptibility of a patient, seat of the disease, nature and intensity, stage and duration, and what was the previous treatment he was taking for the clinical condition. This is what normally Stuart Close says. Susceptibility, seat of disease, nature and intensity, stage and duration, previous treatment. Now let us see what philosophers were to talk with this concept. Now, susceptibility is supposed to be an important concept for selecting the dose. Now, this is a very technical term which we have to know what is susceptibility. Just to intervene for a small moment, like susceptibility is a reaction to the stimuli, and the stimuli can be from internal or from external source. Now, this susceptibility is important, as we say, more the susceptible, more the similarity, high the potency. Now, when I write the word susceptibility is high, I mean to say the patient's reactions are high. When I say patient susceptibility is low, I mean to say the reactions of these patients are slow. As a physician, if you see for, you can raise the susceptibility, you can decrease the susceptibility. For that matter, you can destroy the susceptibility of a person. So this a prescriber should know. So what I mean to say, a normal susceptible person, after taking your medicine, it's a drug proving, he can have a change of susceptibility. It can be a raise, it can be a decrease. Sometimes you can even destroy the susceptibility. Now, when I mean to say destroy the susceptibility, I mean to say I can kill the person with a remedy. Because when you destroy susceptibility, you mean to say you're not making this person to react to any stimuli. So this normally happens only for a dead man, not for a living person. So living person will react, whereas a dead man will not react. And we know that our medicines have the capacity for destroying the susceptibility for a prover. Now the concept we need to apply for the same for a deceased person also. So the same principles will apply high, low, and destroying. Okay. No, one of the component what we need to know is susceptibility, as we say, is a reaction. It will vary in different individuals according to their age, constitutions, temperaments, habits, and other conditions. And susceptibility will vary from person to person, even it will vary in the same person at different times. For example, when I say like same person different times, the susceptibility will vary. For example, while still at 30 will act because it was susceptible for the person for that moment. Later, when I want to repeat Pulsilla 30, after 15 days, or for that matter, 1 month, person may not react to that remedy. Previously was reacting to that, now he is not reacting. So what actually has happened is the first time the susceptibility was correct. Second time when you were even trying to give the correct remedy, but in the same potency, it may not react. So now you have to change the potency. Why? Because it was a change of susceptibility. So that was the difference, like what you need to understand. Susceptibility changes or varies in the same individual at different point of time. One of the very strong philosophers of Hahnemann, that is Jar, a non-medical man, talking something about potency. As we know, Jar was not a medical man. He was actually a priest, but a follower of Hahnemann. So what he used to say is, tinctures and low potencies, normally you need to prescribe for when the symptoms are of more general character or of common character. So when I am not able to select the remedy, and when I am seeing in the case mostly the general symptoms, which are common symptoms according to Hahnemann, here I have to go for tinctures and low potencies. When I'm very confident that my patient are in the proving, I got quality symptoms or special characteristic symptoms, I can go for medium or high potency. This what I can say you is like you are a very busy practitioner, you didn't had much time to inquire, you got all common symptoms, better to prescribe for low potencies. When you are very confident that you got a quality symptoms, go for high potency. It all depended upon the completeness and characteristic symptom. What I was trying to say, like character of symptom, quality of symptom, completeness of symptom. It made Jar to say generals and commons go for low, high go for characteristic symptoms. Now, what he mean to say by low potency is actually when the philosophers were writing, they were with the ideology of low potency means 3C to 12C. This is one area which we have to be very clear up with. So for them, low potency mean to say they were prescribing 3C to 12C, and above 12, that is 30, 200, and so for them it was so called high potency. So for them, when a patient is having poor quality of symptoms, they were giving potencies less than 12. And when it was with full of quality, completeness, characteristic symptoms, they were going for 30 and above. Now, this was a difference which we have to know. Normally, we prescribe 30 for everyone. That's what we normally think for. 30 is common for everyone, but 30 for them, for the generation old, it was actually a high potency, and 12 below is supposed to be a low potency. Then the grading of disease. Grading of disease, as we know, if the patient is having a low grade, reactions are very poor. Low grade of disease with the fatal disease, the reactions are very poor. Here, instead of going for high potencies, go for low potencies. Now, this is what we read when Kent says in his first observation, like killer's aggravation, prolonged aggravation with final decline. Now, what actually has happened? The patient constitutional remedy you have selected, but it was given in a high potency. And as you might have understood, the grade is low, the reactions are low, but the remedy was given in a high potency. Naturally, it is going to kill the patient. Now, in such cases, what we have to understand is the reactions are very low. And the reactions are very low, You need to build up the reactions. You need to set up the reactions. Always start with high. Once, if you are confident that the reactions are building up, then go for slightly high or medium potencies, but not to dare up with high potencies, because as it always kills the person. Now in terminal stages, again the same, not to go for high potency, but you have to start up with intercurrent remedy, give in a potentized form and small doses. Make sure that the patient increases his reaction, then only go for high. So these points, what you need to understand was potency for terminal stages, not to go for high, start up with low, gradually raise, see that the patients are reacting, then go for high. Now, one of the contemporaries of Kent and Boger, who has written a lot of works on Metromedica and repertory, he was actually practicing with all sorts of potencies. Was actually practicing, but slightly was biased towards high potency. And what they say is he was actually a favorite prescriber for single dose of DMM, which is very high potency. So he was not a low potency prescriber. Boger was a high potency prescriber. Then we had Borland, who has written a lot of works on Metromedica and other books. He has said, like, in low potencies, you have to go for, in especially when there is a local changes. When there's a local change, go for low potencies. When it is for similarity, that general similarity is more. Like when pathology is more matching, go for low potencies. When it is for more similarity, when you are very confident with the similarity, along with local indications, medium or high. So Borland is towards both. He was saying, like, if local changes are there, go for low potency, and if the similarity is more, you can go for medium to high. Medium here it normally starts with 30 and above. Sorry, 12 and above. 12 and above. Then we had Clark. Clark has written a lot of works. He too, again, with the concept of variations in potencies. Clark used to practice for acute illness with low dilutions, that is usually 1C to 3C. So Clark had a combination, like acute, go for 1C to 3C, or chronic, he used to go for high dilutions. Another philosopher called Edgar, he was actually practicing with mother tinctures and low dilutions altogether. Doesn't matter what is the case, acute or chronic, he was usually practicing with low and mother tinctures. Then we had another gentleman with Gentry who has written a repertory. He too had concepts regarding, and for progressive diseases, used to go for medium or low. For progressive, or others used to try for high potencies. Then we had Nash, who has written a wonderful book on Metromedica. He too practiced with medium and high. He was not a low potency prescriber. Nash was a high potency. Then we had Ulrich, who has written a very good book on Metromedica. He too says, like, there is a variation. Low curative potencies used to start, and he used to give from low potencies up to ranging 200. Medium for him, it was usually from 200 to 10M. For him, medium was 200 to 10M. CC denotes for 200, 100 plus 100, 200. And high potency for him was ranging for more than 10M. And when you see the indications of this low potency, it was usually given on acute, and that is for low. For medium, he was giving for subacute conditions with some deeper pathology at times. And for high potency, he was usually giving for chronic curable cases. So there is, again, there's a distinction. Low for acute, medium for subacute, high for chronic. Okay. So that was his distinction regarding the potency selection. Then we had John Ware, student of Kent. And with John Ware, what we read to know is he was actually trying to prove the dose from the concept of science. He was trying to prove dose from the concept of science, where you see he says, like, antimony, many other remedies for that matter, like antimony and some of the enzymes and hormones like thyroxine, pituitrin, and they all actually, in the science of botany and zoology for that matter, what he says is when you try to dilute the medicine, the action is more minute, more distinct. What we say like low doses will stimulate. This concept is not only there for homeopathy, it is there even for biology, especially the zoology subject, where he was taking the reference of many authors. Like Romis was trying thyroxine, and it was given for tadpole, and it was in the strength of 1 to 50,000. Sorry, it was more than that. Jacobi the same, Riyad the same. So all there are many botanists and zoology people who were actually prescribing on the concept of low dose, that is the dilution. The dilution is important and it will stimulate the things. For that matter, John Ware, if you see for what he says is not only from zoology point of view, from physician point of view, what he was trying to say was it's only to stimulate. It's only to stimulate, and the vital force has to react. The vital force has to react. For Hahnemann, if you remember, the disease was a rebellion vital force, and the medicine what we give is only to stimulate the reactions in the vital force. So here the point is very clear, like the medicine is not merely acting here. It's the vital force has to react. It's the vital force which has to react. So when the vital force will react, that you need to decide. Is it for low potency? Is it for high? So many times, as you might have understood, the medicine is not acting. Sometimes the medicine is wrong. Sometimes the potency is wrong. And potency, when you see for, they say you can start up with low, gradually go to high. Sometimes you can start up with medium, go to high. You can sometimes directly go to high, but the patient has to react. If the patient is not reacting, it means to say the medicine is failing there. So the reactions are more important. Forget about the remedy. Forget about the remedy. Remedy selection, as I was saying, different prescriptions comes. Palliative prescription, constitutional prescription. You need to judge when the palliative prescription should come. Is it really, as we say, Kent's first observation, where patient is having scope only for palliation, go for low, the reactions will set up, then gradually raise, go for constitutional when the reactions have been established. Now this discrimination, what Kent was saying, the same words comes through with John Ware, the different terminology, the stimulated reaction of vital force. Now, this is very important, as you might have understood, as the similia says, similia is complete only with simple remedy and law of minimum dose, because the diseased organs were already sensitive to the disease. The diseased organs were already sensitive. Now, upon this sensitive organ, you are giving a medicine. You are giving a medicine. Now this medicine, as you might have understood, should not paralyze or kill, but only to stimulate. And to stimulate, we need to have the doses in low. Okay. Now another philosopher with different ideology, that is, I think, Bernoulli. Now what he says is high dilutions and where to go for low dilutions. High and low, where to go. This gentleman speaks even for repetition for that matter. Now, when you see for high and low, this author says high, you can go, sorry, low actually acts very soon. The action speed, if you see for, they act very soon. They are very superficial and the time is very short. This is very interesting area which we should know for. Low dilutions are very soon in their action. They're very superficial in their action and they're very short for an action. High dilutions, they act very slow and they are deeper for that matter and they act for a long time. Now this difference you have to know, because long potencies, that is high potencies, will act for a long time. Now this also depends upon the intensity, it also depends upon the medicine. Let us have this comparison where. So the point is very clear, low acts for short time, superficial, and high act for long time and for a deeper range. Now when you see this medicine called causticum, and we are prescribing causticum for a patient for the first time for that matter, you see it acts for nearly 60 to 100 days, maximum 100 days. Now, when the dilutions are increased, like I'm trying causticum in 1 m, 10 m, more than that, here the action will be for a longer time. So what I mean to say, like causticum 30, the duration of action, causticum 10 m, the duration of action will be slightly different. On this concept, you have to be very clear. The potency made a difference in the duration of action of a remedy. Let us take another example, say laxasis. Now, laxasis is also having the same concept. So when you give laxasis in a very low dose, in a very low potency for that matter, what they say is the action is maximum for some 7 to 8 days. Laxasis, a so-called animal poison, a animal remedy, which is having a deep action, it acts merely for 8 days. Just try to understand this sentence. There is a negative phase for some time. The positive phase begins on the second day. The positive phase where some positive things are happening up and changes the amelioration which we see for some 6 to 7 days. So what has happened there? After some 8 days, the action of laxasis has been disappeared. The same laxasis, what we say, it's a very deep acting constitutional poison. It's acting in a potency form only for a few days. That is hardly for 8 days. Now, when I repeat the same remedy to the same gentleman again, there again, there was a difference in action. Laxasis first time it acted for hardly 8 days, but when I give laxasis again, same potency, now there is a slight difference in the duration of action. Now when you prescribe laxasis again in high potency, after 200, you went to 1 m. Now the action range is more. After 1 m, the action may be for 1 month. After beyond 1 m, like if you go for 10 m, now the action will be for 3 months. So what has happened? 30, for that matter 200, the action was for 15 days, 10 days. When you are increasing the potency, when you are increasing it, the positive phase is also again increasing. Sometimes it is going beyond 1 month. So when you feel like I want to change the remedy because the remedy is falling short of your action, better you repeat the same remedy, the same potency, because the remedy may act in a better way when you give the second time. If you still feel a short, go for high potency, because by this time, as you might have understood, the range, the duration will be more. Still, if you feel, then you can change the remedy. That's what we read in second prescription, change of remedy, where Kent says, change the potency first. Because by changing the potency, you are increasing the duration of action. If you still feel it's a short, then go for change of remedy. Now, as regards for, we have the word low dilutions, acute, they act for short time, for short duration. High dilutions, you can go for long time. Now, how long I should wait for? This is again an equal question, important for us. Now, high dilutions, if you feel are really required, especially in a chronic case, if it is not fatal, you can wait. You can wait for high dilutions to act. But if it is a chronic condition and patient, you want to go for high and patient is not having adequate reactions, don't wait for more than 2 days, you can change the remedy. So depending upon the severity, you can plan the remedy selection. Now this gentleman of high or low, what this gentleman has done beautifully is, he was giving sometimes a mixture of dilutions to the same person. Now this is a technically a new word to us, mixture of dilutions. What is this mixture of dilutions? Actually, to the same gentleman, to the same diseased person, he was giving two potencies. Two potencies in the sense, okay, high, one low, one high, one low, and he was giving them parallelly. And what he used to say, it was an intermediate action, and was more with the concept of intermediate action. And what he says is this mixture of dilutions like high and low giving parallelly it used to act more rapidly, more deeply, and the duration is medium by duration. It's not long duration, but it is definitely a medium duration, but the action is very rapid and deep. For example, in a chronic case, as I was saying, he was giving an intermediate. So what he used to do, he used to give 6 and 200 together. Sometime 200 and 1M together, sometime 1M and 25M together. So it is giving like two dilutions together to the same disease person. Now for that, he used to usually start with high followed by low. Always 200 should go first, then 6. 1M should go first, followed by 200. Now that is how he was trying to give. And such experiments he yielded in good results. And he was trying such medicines in dilutions for neurotic patients. So this is again a unique experience. Now, depending upon the complaint, the area of involvement, he used to have his own choice of potency. For sympathetic and nervous complaints, he was going for high, and for gastric complaints, he used to go for low dilutions. But intermediate, he was trying for neurotic, which is his own unique idea. Then we had another gentleman named George Royal. Now, to begin with George Royal, what I can firmly say is he was also like us, having a lot of confusions for that matter, and he too had his own references with many sources. He was having many sources as his reference. What he used to say, he used to have references from provings, he used to have references from many encyclopedias and journals, he used to have references from all the clinical cases. So patient side and proving side and all the literature was having all the information, and that's how he has developed his own concept for potencies. If you see, for his attention was mostly given for the makeup, that is potency upon makeup of the individual. So for neurotic people, he used to go for high susceptibility with high potency. For dull phlegmatic people, he used to go for low potencies. Another area where he was actually clear with is the duration of action depending upon the acuteness and the chronicness of the complaint. This was again one of his criteria. And I was saying, like, chronic, if you feel to go for high, don't have to wait for a long time. If you feel for the reactions are not coming up, you can even go for a low dilution, sorry. Now, one of his experiences with H.C. Allen, a contemporary, a friend of George Royal. Now, what this gentleman used to say is, Allen and he had one case in common, and where they tried this case with pneumonia. The patient was suffering with pneumonia, and patient was given bryonia. This bryonia was given, and bryonia was given in 201M. Later, actually, this patient had an exchange of doctor. Like, this patient switched from one doctor to another. Then the doctor inquired which doctor and what remedy. And it came to know like bryonia was given in that high potency. Then they were inquiring why the remedy was indicated, yet not it is acting. It was given in a very high potency. The remedy is for bryonia, the patient is going for bryonia, but why it didn't acted even though it was given in a high potency. Later, the patient, when they were trying to discuss with what potency you wanted to give, he actually tried with 1M, then 30. Finally, the doctor, they gave 3C. And what actually happened was 3C has acted in that pneumonia case where 1M, 10M were failing. So here, as I say, you should know where the reaction will start up. Sometimes the reactions may start with low potencies for the same remedy, but not for high. So there you have to go for low. So George Royal had its own views. Then we had another gentleman with most acute diseases and chronic diseases. Depending upon the severity and debility, they were going for selection of potencies. So what this gentleman used to say, for acute diseases and for chronic diseases with debility as a phenomena, go for 2C to 3C. When it is local, it's not a general disease. When it's again local, again go with low, gradually raise. So for acute and chronic with debility, go for low. Even for local diseases, go for low and gradually raise. And when to go for high? High has to be given always for chronic with general sickness. Okay. Now, another gentleman with a different ideology, like when you see this word, the dose was determined by the peculiarity of the medicine, and here actually the author was trying to emphasize more upon the action of the physiological action of the medicine. The physiological proving will tell you a lot about the action of the medicine, and thereupon you can decide what potencies you have to give for. For example, most energetic and intensifying action which used to see in medium dilutions, whereas less energetic we used to see for low dilutions and crude doses. So physiological provings will tell you what is the duration. So most energetic intensify go for medium or high dilutions. When it is less energetic, go for low dilutions. So most energetic, what this author used to say is, it's usually going for vegetable medicines. Less energetic was going for mineral medicines. That was his observation over here. Now, depending upon, like I was discussing with Richard Hughes, I remember. Now, Richard Hughes was saying, sorry, it's Dajion. Now, what actually we were trying to say is not only the quality, the nature of medicine is the criteria. Sometimes the nature of disease itself is a criteria. What is the nature of disease? If the disease nature is with intense phenomena, it is attacking the most virulent parts, you have to go for an energetic medicine. It is the second criteria what this author said, like nature of medicine, nature of disease. The nature of disease is intense, go for high. Now to this category, he has given some examples like inflammations, etc. But again, with some exceptions are there. Now for chronic, he used to always suggest for high. But in an example called hysteria, it's a chronic phenomena where we used to say high has to be given for. But in hysteria, this author was suggesting to go for small doses. Now, what was the point here actually was the same hysterical person is having two different phenomena going parallelly. At one end, he was hyper stimulative. At other end, he was slightly torpid, very dull. So when two phenomena were going, he was going for small doses. When it is purely chronic, and there you have to go for high. So if the mixture is there, go for low. If it is purely high, then you have to go for high potencies, even in chronic cases. Now, depending upon the diseases, specific area of involvement, again, the potencies used to vary for. Like if it is for musculoskeletal and anal elementary canal, was going for medium. If it is for neurologic, he was going for high. And there are many conditions he was suggesting for. And upon this, if you see for like when we are reading Dajion, when he said like two phenomena are important, that is disease phenomena and drug phenomena, this gentleman even used to have some more tips like the individuality, constitution, sex. Sex, he used to say females were more susceptible for small. Then temperament was one more criteria which we know. Idiosyncrasy, how idiosyncratic is your patient or prover. So idiosyncratic patients, we have to go for high potency for approving, but small potency for treatment because already they are idiosyncratic. Go with low. And what he says is depending upon the epidemic and endemic influences, one more very interesting term, that is climate. Climate was one of the criteria for Dajion to select the potency. So where he used to say like warm climate, go for great susceptibility. If it is cold climate, go for low susceptibility. So naturally, when we say India in its temperature, we are with warm climate. Naturally, we have to go for high susceptibility. When you go for cold countries, when you go for European countries for that matter, there the temperatures are slightly temperate or cold. There they have to go for low susceptibility. This is one more new word which we came across with. So meaning the others are same, but temperature again is a difference for this philosopher. Now to end up my discussion, when we see a lot of potencies and discussions, we see many authors who are prescribing with various groups. They had their own whims and fancies. They had their own likes and dislikes. Like what we read, Clark is usually a low. Sometimes he was going for high. Like HCLN, Dunham, Boning for that matter, they were for medium and high. And our Kent, as you know, is always for high. But Kent was even suggesting for low also at times. Okay. And all the followers of Kent, the major people, if you go for like Borland, Stuart Close, all the major philosophers, they were with usually high. So what we see, the concept of potency, the dose, each philosopher has its own benchmark. Now this is the gist what you have to know. Naturally comes the question, it's all okay, what you have taught is very good, but to a practitioner, what I should do in my clinic? This is the core point which every student will ask, which every practitioner will ask to me. Now this is the conclusion for the topic, when to go for high. In patients with increased susceptibility, where there's a marked similarity, when there's a marked completeness of symptom, good quality, go for high. When it is exacting similarity, when you feel for, go for high. Qualified mentals are there, go for high. When you feel that disease is purely functional, has not yet touched the organic pathology, go for high. When you give a remedy like inert remedy, like natrum mur, silesia, they are very inert in their physiological state. When you want to use them, go for high potencies, but not for low. No sodes, as we read, always is a high potency. Cases when they are not responding to low to medium, go for high. So cases where I was saying like low to medium are not indicated for. You feel it's like a low potency, not yet acted, gradually raise it. If you still feel it's not acting, go for high. Hypersensitive patients, go for high. Children, normally we say go for high. Young, vigorous people and nervous temperament, choleric, you can go for high. Sedentary people like doctors, teachers, they go for high. And ample amount of characteristic symptoms are there, go for high. Then when to go for moderate? Moderate is given a patient with moderate susceptibility when there's a partial similarity between patient and remedy. When I'm not confident, when I'm in a doubt, I can go for medium. That is, you can plan for medium potencies. When patient has both functional and pathological with some changes, go for medium. Remedies which are active in their crude state, which are not inert, but which they are active, the physiological state, go for medium. When patient has not responded to low, go for medium. Moderately sensitive, go for medium. Messed up case, which is a messed up case, which you are not very sure, and it was taken with many treatments, start with medium. Moderate amount of characteristics are there. It's not complete characteristic, completeness of the symptom. Moderate symptoms are there. Go for medium potency. Medium, we mean to say, can be about 12C. It can be 30, 200. 1M and 10M, they always go for high. The last comes low potency, where I mean to say less than 12, less than 30. Now here actually you need to know that patients are with low susceptibility. Low susceptibility, low similarity, more of disease phenomena, terminal changes, go for low. Inadequate correspondence, where I feel there is inadequate correspondence. You are a busy practitioner, seen a case, but not having much time, you have a doubt, go for low usually. Disease phenomena is more marked in the structural changes. Terminal stages where patient comes with advanced pathology, go for disease. Organic remedies, partially proven remedies, narcotics usually go for low. So organic prescription, when I say organic prescription, like I'm giving spleen remedies, liver remedies, kidney remedies, or heart remedies, always go for low. When high potency ceases to act, this is an equal phenomenon. When low fail, high will act. When high fails, low will act. Instead of changing the remedy, try to think of change the potency. If you still feel the potency has not acted in any level, low or high, then plan for change of remedy. Patient with low susceptibility, sensitivity, sluggishness, idiots, for that matter, deaf and dumb, go for low. Patients who are already characterized with some suppressions go for low. With absence or scanty characteristics, go for low. So, in short, what we were having a discussion was when to go for low, when to go for medium, when to go for high. So this is an equal important concept to me because when I teach, when I see students coming to me with some records, when I see patients coming to me and they were using some prescriptions from other homeopaths, we get an idea whether the remedy was really correct because the patient had been repertorized, patient had been thoroughly examined. Sometimes what we feel is probably the remedy was correct, the potency was not correct. What made the prescriber not to go for high, not to go for low? It was all the whims and fancies what he was carrying with. Better you have to open up, have an exploration at potencies at all levels, not to go merely as a high potency prescriber or a low potency prescriber. What I can suggest is what is the case really demanding for? Because when we read Bernoulli, he was with the concept of high and low, and what he was doing is was giving that, and he was also giving a functional remedy altogether. It was not a single remedy prescriber there. It was giving two remedies, like one high, low, and low potency, and secondly was giving another functional remedy. So there were three prescriptions together, but still he had its own experience. So what I mean to say you is go and decide the potency before changing the remedy. Change the potency first. That is equally important. And you are very clear with the concepts of 12 observations and second prescription. That will definitely make a difference. But before changing the remedy, even the discovery of chronic miasms, and Hahnemann written a book called Chronic Diseases, he was also with the same ideology, change the potency before change the remedy. So this is the core point which you need to take from my discussion. I hope I have satisfied to the demands of the organizers, and I thank them for giving me this opportunity because what I personally feel, a lot of webinars have been discussed by different stalwarts throughout the globe, and various vibrant topics have been discussed. Among these, to select a topic was a tough choice to me. And what I've done is a topic to my subject, that is posology, where we normally have some questions, but we generally don't think for it. When I see some students, they say like, I will give only 50 millisiemens, but not centesimal. Why? Because in a webinar, some teacher was encouraging only for 15 millisiemens. Some student, they come to me, they say, sir, I heard that webinar, he says always go for high, not to go for low potencies. So this is how the students are getting slightly confused, and practitioners including me, I'm also getting confused because what I should educate to these youngsters, is it only low good or is it high good? Is it always to go for 50 millisimal or to go for centesimal of what Kent has told? Is it really that Kent was the first person to say centesimal in a high? No. Because even before to Kent, many people were giving centesimal in a high potency. So I thank the organizers for giving me the opportunity, and I thank everyone for a patient listening. Thank you one and all. So any questions? I'm ready to welcome. Andy. Any questions from any of the participants? I'm ready to welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Gayathri. That was an exhaustive preparation and a very fruitful and effective, productive presentation, which is right through the history of homeopathy, all the great practitioners and the stalwarts of homeopathy, whomsoever you have quoted and what they have been doing all this while. It's a very, very genuinely prepared presentation. Thank you so much. We request from the audience to share any questions if they would like to ask the learned speaker. He's willing to clear them for you. You can open your mic and ask the question.
Hello.
Sir, Chakrat sir. Again, sir.
Hi. Hi. Yeah. Hi, sir. How are you?
Fine, sir.
Fine. Yeah. I had a small doubt. That was a good presentation, sir. Thank you. Suppose if a baby or if a kid of age, let take granted, kid or whatever it may be, the baby is having organic pathology, right? Hello.
Yeah, please.
The baby is having organic pathology in brain, or so, but there are marked PQRS symptoms.
Yeah.
Okay. So here, of course, it's safe to start with low potency. In general, we say.
Yes.
But does it do harm if we give any high potency? Suppose there are marked PQR symptoms, but severe organic pathology is there.
So this is a question what we need to think for, like what is my remedy and what is the affinity of my remedy and what potency I have to give for. For example, if you say like I want to give for a brain remedy, brain condition ochindi, and I'm giving a brain remedy. The brain remedy should be, the point is etiology and pathogenesis of the condition should match with the pathogenesis of your remedy. Because as you said, it's already a grave condition and I should be very confident with what is my pathogenesis of my remedy. Many people, they say like, I will take away with the symptoms. Symptoms, they say, is the criteria for selecting. But what I merely feel, it's not merely the symptom, but it is the pathogenesis or pathology behind the symptom you need to consider for. Because at times what we see, symptom will confuse you. Symptom will really confuse you because where pathology is more marked, terminal changes are there, symptoms will confuse you. Better to start up with pathogenesis, that is with low potency. If you still feel like no, it is not low, then you plan for high. But as I said, there should be a time for the reaction to set up with. Because beyond the reaction, if you start giving a remedy initially, aggravations can happen. As I say, it's a fatal aggravation, which we have to be very, very clear with. Advanced pathology going for high without a proper knowledge of our medicine. Because as I say, medicine means not merely the symptom, but the pathogenesis of the medicine also should be very, very clear with. Then you can go for high. As you read, like some medicines, they are very superficial in their action. Like aconite is a very superficial remedy, but whereas sulfur, it's a very deep acting remedy. So here, as I say this word, the depth of the action of the remedy, you have to know very, very clear. The depth of the action of your remedy. Then plan the potency. Many a times, I'm sorry to say, our prescription is wrong. Before selecting the potency, forget about potency. Our prescription is wrong. How many times we have been confused with the miasm when we say like psychotic is the miasm, but I have given a syphilitic remedy. So it's very common to say like psychotic remedy iyali, but syphilitic remedy icheshnam. Actually, it's difference in miasm. Forget about potency. We have not decided the correct remedy first. So remedy comes first, then comes potency. As you said, it's a terminal stage. Better to start with the low. If you feel that patient is really reacting, then go for high.
That's what. Okay. Thank you very much. What is your idea on mother tinctures? Just casually asking.
Sir,
any
actually speaking,
literature like?
you people are very senior to me, sir.
Ayo,
And
sir,
no,
nothing,
it's
nothing
not you,
casual.
sir.
Any
I'm seeing
literature
many
can use,
people. I'm seeing
sir.
many people in front of me. It's not only you. I'm seeing my seniors from my college, parent college, India. I'm seeing many
Yes, sir.
seniors and teachers who are sitting in front of me. Taking this
Sorry.
lecture on this topic itself is a very tough challenge for me. What
Yes,
I
yes,
feel
it
is
was
that
very,
mother
yes, sir.
tinctures actually I suggest, sir. Mother tinctures I suggest, if it is because of pathological changes, I suggest. There are some practitioners in Hyderabad, what I personally feel, where they use only mother tinctures. They don't go for potencies because what they still feel is patient is having functional changes in a very mere level. It's very small level. They feel that still the potency should not be given. Mother tinctures has to be given. But it all depends upon your philosophy, what you want to prescribe on. If I want to go for Kent, actually speaking, if I say I'm a Kentian prescriber, I have to go for high. But the same Kent says go for low in a terminal stage. So you should be very
Yes.
clear with what Kent said actually speaking. We generally get carried away with some of the words and we blindly follow them. But Kent actually was saying even for low in a terminal stage.
Yes, yes. Thank you. Actually, I don't want to ask your opinion, but in general literature, what it says, that's all. Anyway, thank you for your presentation. It was very nice, in depth it is. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Request Dr. Sivshankar sir to say a few words, sir.
Yes, sir. Please, Shivashankar sir, Japan sir, please.
I request Dr. Gopal Krishna sir to give his remarks, sir.
May I speak a few words?
Please go ahead. Please go ahead, sir.
Dr. Narasimha Rao. Yeah. See, till the selection of the remedy and law of similars, Hahnemann has given strict rules. But when it comes to the posology, he has given only guidance and he is left to every physician to work hard and go for it. That's why some scholars, they say low potency, they start low, they go high and everything. But Hahnemann's time, he didn't go beyond 60, sometimes they say 200. So this is the place of every individual doctor to work hard on their own with the help of some seniors for the potency selection. Otherwise, still, the law of similars and getting the similarium, strict rules are there we have to follow with chronic disease and other everything. When the drug comes, he has given susceptibility and other things, we have to do it. One point Dr. Gayathri has told in his lecture, that is environment. In a warm atmosphere, cold atmosphere, when that's why even the remedy selection also for the causation is more important. In a warm wet weather, cold wet weather, where it comes, and at the same time the potencies also. That's my idea, and congratulations to Gayathri Prasad for his excellent, I can say, continuous lecture. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Rao. I request Dr. Gopal Krishna sir to say a few words. Gopal Krishna sir, please unmute yourself.
Hello.
We can hear you now, sir.
Yeah. I congratulate Dr. Gayathri Prasad for his excellent oration. So he has given us many inputs for day-to-day use for practitioners, and especially for younger practitioners. A lot of their confusions are addressed. very properly. And here we understand that varied potencies one has to use depending on the situation, circumstances, and the need. So that we have to cultivate. So instead of just using low potencies, not using high potencies, only 50 millismol. So unlike that, we need to use varied potencies basing on various aspects to be considered at the time of prescribing. This is in fact a very useful lecture, and I thank all the participants for their patient hearing of the lecture. And one more thing, so this particular oration was instituted by Jayasuriya Sheshachari Shilpa Endowment Trust in the beginning. Later, that particular trust has donated the corpus to our association, and since then we are organizing Dr. Jayasuriya and Dr. Sheshachari's memorial orations. So we thank that particular trust for their generous donation to our association for the furtherance of homeopathy. And yeah, I once again congratulate Dr. Gayathri Prasad for his very useful oration.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
I request Dr. Sivashankar sir to say a few words. I see his hand raised in this meeting, sir.
Namaskar.
Dr. Sivashankar sir is joining us in a few seconds, please. You can speak now, sir.
Am I audible?
Very much, sir. Please go ahead, sir.
I am audible?
Yes, yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Oh, congrats, Dr. Prasad. Excellent presentation. Very well prepared, very well judged presentation. I congratulate you, honestly. And does the repetition of those form a part of posology? Are you able to hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, it forms a part of
Does the repetition of a dose form a part of posology?
Yes, sir. Yes, I think I have not touched that area.
You
Yes,
are
sir.
not touching that area. That is a very hot area. Hot in the sense, in the contemporary times in the homeopathic profession, this dose is creating a lot of confusion and lot of, especially in the younger generation, young homeopaths, they're really confused. One says you give one dose and don't repeat till another 3 months. Another says you give 3 doses and wait for 3 months. It's all a creating confusion. It is not in tune with the science of homeopathy. Science of homeopathy says something else. but in between various concepts are developed and various theories are put forward, causing real confusion to the young homeopaths. Can you throw some light on that?
Sir, I will try to my level, sir. So here actually what I was seeing some of the doubts also was regarding the number of doses to be repeated. So actually speaking, when we prescribe for, when you see Hahnemann to begin with was giving a single dose, was never suggesting for any multiple doses. Then the same Hahnemann at one point of his career, he said to go for multiple doses. Multiple doses, what he used to feel like multiple doses, even the same potency. Multiple doses, even with the same potency, it had a benefit of action where he meant to say not to go for single dose, go for multiple doses. Now, when we read for Hahnemann in 50 millisimal, where he was suggesting to go for frequent repetition, that too in a different scale. A different scale. What he meant to say, not to give the same potency the same way to the same person for the second time, which he was slightly meaning to say the susceptibility was matched with the first dose. Second dose will not match for the same susceptibility. The susceptibility has been changed. The susceptibility has been changed. Naturally, you need to go for some different dose, slightly different dose, which he meant to say that was his concept. Then we had Kent, who was with the high potency prescriber, and naturally he was waiting for long time for single doses. But the same Kent, as I was trying to say, for mother tinctures, he was going for multiple repetitions because it was multiple repetitions to be given for mother tincture as they act very superficially and the action is very for a short time. So this difference we need to know. Hahnemann was slightly different. Kent was again slightly different. Kent was usually for high potency prescriber. There naturally you have to go for single potency. Sometimes what I personally feel, like patients they come to my OP, they say that they have taken medicine in homeopathy and the doctor has given medicine in a high potency and the doctor has advised this patient to take medicine for a quite long time. So where they say like 1 m was given and 1 m was given for 1 month. 1 m was given for 1 month. And what actually happened was after taking homeopathy, this patient says, sir, ఇంతకు ముందు ఇవి లేకుండే after medicine it came to me.
Okay.
So something like what we read in our organon, that is medicine has aggravated the condition. Sometimes we need to antidote it, or you need to take a new remedy based upon the acuteness of symptom, or else you can ask the patient to withdraw the drug for some time to get the original disease picture. Now this is something what we need to know, like how frequently should I repeat the medicine. If it's for functional changes, you can repeat frequently. For organic, don't go for potency, go for low doses, that is mother tinctures. There we can prescribe frequently. As when we were reading the potency for terminal stages, it was always mother tinctures, and mother tinctures used to excite a reaction. The reaction may set up in the person with mother tinctures for a long time. You have to give every day mother tincture thrice or 4 times, then only the reaction will set in. Once the reaction has set in, probably the medicine can be given in a potentized form with a less frequency. Now this demarcation, a physician and a student should know. Student can't give a remedy, like he can't say like I will give the same remedy. And one small area which I want to stress always was, one remedy is not the end for a chronic case. This we have to be very, very clear with. For an acute case, one remedy can meet all the demands. But for a chronic case, one remedy may not meet all the demands. So you have to increase the potency. At one point of time, you need even to change the remedy. So this idea which we should have as a physician, and I'm taking a chronic case, I will not take it with one remedy, I will change the remedy. But before changing the remedy, I will change the potency. As you said, repetition should be done at a adequate time, not frequently, because too frequent repetitions, medicinal aggravations tend to happen. This word of caution every physician should have. I hope I have answered to certain extent, sir.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Prasad. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sivshankar sir. Also, an interesting observation. We had a seminar recently with the help of one Dr. Dishan, a PhD in nanotechnology. He said the amount of nanoparticles beyond the 200 potency, even if you go to 1M or 10M potency, it is almost the same. There is neither any increase or decrease in the nanoparticles as we keep increasing the potency. Probably in the days to come, as clinicians, we need to consider this aspect and probably try our potencies and repetitions in different ways. This is just a reflection of what has happened recently at one of our seminars. I request Dr. Sampath Raoji, our president, to say a few words.
ಫೋಟೋ ಬಟ್ ನನ್ನ ಪೇರು ಇస్తున్నారు ನಾನು ಕಿಚ್ಚೊತ್ತೆ ಬಟ್ ಬೆಟ್ಟ
I request Dr. Gopal Krishna sir to conclude the session with his quote.
Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Venu. Hello, am I audible?
Yes, sir. Please go ahead, sir.
Yeah. So, while thanking the Honorable Speaker, Dr. Gayathri Prasad, for his useful and detailed lecture, and I thank all the participants and the seniors, teachers, students, practitioners, youngsters, and especially our Dr. Shivashankar Garu, Dr. Vashisht and other colleagues. So, almost many of the usual queries of many of the practitioners. So we are very thankful to him. We would like to hear from him in future also for such useful topics. Thanks one and all.
Thank you so much, sir. We look forward to meeting you soon again next month. Thanks and regards to all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.